Welcome to GTI TV. With my co-host, Catherine Fulner, we have Bob and Cesar. Bob is a business owner and Cesar is the founder of CBNA. So the first question I want to ask is, how did you guys get to know each other? You knew each other before you knew me, right? And in GTI.
He was my probation officer. No. I actually had the chance to meet him with a fellow colleague, Sonia Avello, who owns Latin Finance. I was at their office and Karen was there. And Karen said, he's a grown-up, bigger Cesar. So she she said we kind of had the same type of energy to go, and that's how I met him. And honestly, what he was doing and how he explained it was so instrumental, because I never, ever would sponsor an event dead on spot. Yeah. And we were at dinner in Middletown, and I was just elated to say, you know what, I really like what you're doing. Yeah. And we were able to, he let me sponsor an event, and I just love what he's doing. I wish I had half the energy he has now, and that's how we met.
But you know, it kind of just reminds me, because you're on the board of directors in Newington, right, for the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah. So you still engage with Cesar and CBNA. So tell us about that a little bit. Why would you? Because basically CBNA could be described as a very similar organization as Chamber of Commerce, but it's so much more than that, isn't it?
Well, why am I sitting here with you, with GTI?
Yes.
Right.
Because I think together, if our mission is not to make something better, then I think all of us would disagree that they even do anything together.
Right.
But I just think that if we're on the same road together, the same train together, for betterment of a purpose and people, how do we lose?
Yeah, it's just connecting. So Cesar, what do you think the benefit is being connected with Bob and what he's done for your organization? I mean, he's a great advocate for your organization, but tell us a little bit about that and how you've kind of attracted similar people like Bob. I mean, the last event we went to was just incredible. A lot of high energy and just people connecting. It wasn't any more than that. It was just connecting. So explain that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Bradley. So to answer the first part of that question, you know, I see Bob as like a mentor, right? He has a world of experience, of knowledge, just good energy. You know, he talks a lot about my energy, but he has the same level of energy, and it's crazy, you know, watching him work the room at our events or even just connecting with members. He's a natural at it. And so to me, you know, Bob's a really big inspiration, and he's added so much value to the CBNA community, to other members. You know, I get word all the time that Bob is having a lot of one-on-ones and people are actually getting value, right? They're getting value. They feel, you know, they leave these meetings with Bob feeling more energized, having more, you know, knowledge, and that's really what it's all about. So, you know, one day when I grow up and I'm like Bob, you know, that's something that I look forward to.
I think we all would.
I don't know. I don't think we should ever grow up, though. It's like Noni says, right? Don't ever get old. We can age, but don't ever get old.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. I love that. And I think what's so beautiful is all of us sitting here, we are come from such different backgrounds, but we all have the same message. We want to grow together. We want to build each other up, utilize each other. I'm very curious, what prompted you to start CBNA? Tell me about that whole story.
It's quite a story. It's long, but I'm gonna see if I can shorten it as best as I can. But it started when I was working for a telecommunications sales company out in Wethersfield. And at the time, my only ambition was just to be the #1 salesperson in the office indefinitely, right? So I knew that in order to kind of stand out from the rest of the people here at the office, I would have to do something a little bit different. And that's when I started thinking more seriously about networking, right? Building real relationships right here in Connecticut for the very first time ever. Because at the time, I think I only had like 4 or 5 connections outside of the office. So I started looking at, you know, networking organizations, some that were a little bit more well-known, others that weren't well-known, like smaller groups. And unfortunately, you know, what I found were some groups that were a little bit out of my budget. You know, some were, they met way too early in the mornings, way too frequently. And, you know, working in sales, I work 10-hour days, right? So Monday through Friday, 10 hours, you know, cold calling, 200, 300 cold calls every single day. So you really don't have much time for anything else. So unfortunately, a lot of these groups were too time consuming, too expensive, just wasn't working out. So I decided to start my own, right? Not with the intention of making profit or generating any revenue or anything like that. It was literally just to scratch my own itch, just to start meeting some people, build connections, get referrals for my business. Because even though I was a salesperson, I was still independent with my own LLC, right? So it worked, and I started bringing some of my friends into the community platform, and they started bringing their friends, and then they started interacting. And 4 months in, I started in January 2025. 4 months in, I think we had close to 200 members inside the community. I wasn't doing anything to monetize. It was just people having conversations, having fun. I noticed a lot of the members were starting to meet one-on-one outside of the community, and then they were like posting, selfies, like, hey, and then posting it inside the community. I'm like, this is more valuable than I thought, right?
Wow.
But in reality, it was just other people that also wanted what I wanted. They wanted that connection. They wanted the real relationships to build a network of professionals that they can get more than just referrals from, but actually build real lifelong bonds with, right? So that's the trend that I started to see in the community. And a lot of the members were coming back to me, suggesting that I start or host events, right? And I wasn't even thinking about it because, mind you, at this time, I myself never went to a networking event. Never been to a networking event ever in my life.
So you're going in blind.
Exactly, and I'm like, you guys want me to host it? I've never even been to an event myself. But I accepted the challenge, and I did it anyway. And I think for the very first event, I got like 20 people in, and at the time, because I was kind of new to it, I figured like 20 people, that's not a lot, they're not gonna get a lot of value out of this. But it turned out to be super beneficial because the members, they liked having more of like a curated group of people. It was, more intimate conversations. You could actually work the room and speak with every single person that was inside. I gave every single member in the room a platform to talk about their business, right? Like I gave them like a little spotlight. Plus they ate, they had food, they were having a good time. There was some music. Some of the members were dancing. So it was amazing, right? And I met some incredible people at my very first event. Not only was it the first one I ever hosted, but the first one I ever attended. And I met Karen, who connected me with Bob at that event. Karen is a representative of the Better Business Bureau here in Connecticut. And at that event, she was having so much fun that she literally came up to me and she like pitched me on an idea to collaborate on a bigger event. It was actually a collaboration with the BBB. And I was like, what? Like it was crazy.
That says so much about you, and that's incredible.
Yeah,
wow.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I was like, okay, well, I'll let you lead this because I've never actually done anything this big before. But that event really opened up my eyes because it really showed me how big this community has become and the potential that it has. Because I went from having 20 people in the room to having 85 people in the room. And our organization at this time, we sold so many tickets that I was able to, and we also had sponsors for that first event too, and Bob was one of them. And we were able to get cater the food. We had a bartender, we had drinks, I think you actually came to that first event.
That's where I first met you.
Yeah. Exactly. I think a lot of us, a lot of our members met at that very first event. It was incredible. And then the very next day, I was getting members coming up to me telling me that they got ROI. This one roofing company did $13,000 in sales, literally not even a week later. Other members were talking about collaborating with other members at that event. And I'm like, this is crazy valuable. And that's when I really started to think about monetizing the community, not for necessarily selfish gain, but because I knew that in order to make it better, I would need to have the resources in order to improve it, make the community better, host better events, have food, drinks, all that stuff costs money. So that's why it was important to start monetizing. But also, of course, to free myself from my, job or, whatever I was doing at the time, so I could really focus on making this as great as possible, because the one thing that the members need is somebody that really cares about the community to make it better. So
I think what's so great about that is it started so organically because you yourself, as a business-oriented individual, you were in sales, you were grinding, as we talked about earlier, and you were like, I need this. So that is such an organic place to come from. And I think that's so beautiful. Things happen when it's coming from the right intentions. And Bob, we were talking about that earlier, of you no longer want it just for you. You want to bring people with you. It gives you more benefit to help other people than for you to be successful in and of yourself. I think that is so beautiful. Do you guys have anything to touch on that and really like what comes from?
Again, I'll go right back to what we talked about earlier about the whole organic thing. When I was at the first event that I was privileged to help sponsor, I hired 2 people. I hired 2 people from that event.
That's awesome.
And I'm working on a 3rd one now. What I saw was being able to just talk like we're doing it now.
Yeah.
Like I met with 2 individuals last week. We didn't really talk much about business. We talked about just things that we like to do, family, some of our goals, some of our failures. And that's one of the things I will say. You don't realize the influence you are to me as far as being able to discuss failure freely. Like him and I have had some chats on certain things that we've all failed at. But when we come together as a group to get better, we could talk about some of our failures, minus judgment.
Yeah.
We could talk about, hey, how can we get better at that? How can you or I get better at this? And when we're doing that, it's no more about blame or judgment. Now it's about how can I or you help me or you? And I think that's what's going to happen with CBNA. CBNA is going to get to a point where we're going to talk about, hey, how can I better this or that? Because it's not always about business.
Right.
It has a lot to do with, look, you're a young dad, put your seatbelt on. So
I have like 6 on right now.
So what I'm saying is that what he's doing now is just, it's totally amazing to me, because you don't get that type of growth if you're fake.
Right.
It'll dwindle. And if it's not managed properly, it'll dwindle. So it's going the right way, and there's a reason for it. There's a lot of CBNA people that are part of his board, part of his group, that it's not a hobby for them.
Right.
It's real. And I think that's why it's taking off.
Yep, and also what you've done as far as your growth, even within the last few months, throughout Connecticut. And we're talking about getting you throughout the country, right?
Yep.
As we kind of promote what you're doing, and you're starting to think about, okay, how do I expand this and have it be a little bit different in each one of the areas and categories. For each state's going to be a little bit different as you expand, and you've got to build the infrastructure that can obviously handle that from a technology standpoint. And the one thing I do want to point out, and that you and I have had a lot of different conversations about some of the individuals, that you vet out all the
Correct.
All the people.
Oh,
He measures too. He measures.
Yes.
Because I sat with him one time and I said, "Do you know where you're at with this group, with this group, with this group, with that group?" And right off the top of his head, you measure. If you measure, you can manage.
Yep.
Tell me about that process. How do you vet it? Like, what goes through your head in determining if someone should come into the fold?
Yeah, so in order to answer that question, I first have to step back and kind of like let the audience know what CBNA is, just in case they're like, what's this group? What is it all about, So CBNA stands for the Connecticut Business Networking Association. And it's a professional referrals and networking community where we get CT-based entrepreneurs, business professionals, business owners. We gather them inside of our community platform where they can share referrals and leads to each other. Aside from our online community platform, which is paid, our members also have the opportunity of joining specialized leads and referrals groups, right? All over Connecticut. So right now we have 3 that I developed in the last couple months. We have the Hartford County chapter group, and then we have a New Haven, which needs a little bit more work. We have like 8 members on that one, inside that one, and then we have our Fairfield County chapter, which was launched only like 2 weeks ago, and that's now our biggest chapter with almost 20 members inside. So thank you, I appreciate it. So our members, they meet bi-weekly for the purpose of passing referrals, exchanging leads, doing warm introductions to people that they know. They bring them to the meeting, they get to meet the members, and that usually leads to business, right? Why that's so important? You're technically leveraging other people's relationships, right? You're leveraging the trust that people have built with other people,
Right.
which leads to generating business for you much quicker, much faster, right? So in order to build a community that is effective, you need the right people inside. You can't just have everyone in there, especially since we do have some individuals inside who are pretty high net worth, and we want to protect everybody in the room, especially for our events. So we want the right people at all times, because safety is my priority concern with all of the members there. We want all of our members to feel comfortable, whether you're attending a networking event, a leads or referrals chapter, or even just inside the community, right? We want to have the best culture possible, and in order to create the best culture, you need the best kinds of people. So at one of our networking events, we had a member, she was a realtor, and she was having fun, and then she came up to me and she was like, Cesar, like, I don't understand, like, how is it that you're able to get all of these amazing people with great personalities in just this one room? Everybody I've spoken to is amazing. And you know, honestly, I was lost for words. I didn't really have the answer off the top of my head, but it's because I actually take the time to meet with every single person, whether that's a Zoom call or in person, or you know, a phone call, right? Just to know that they're real, that they are who they say they are, and that they're coming into this with the best mindset and the best energy. That's what I look for: energy, mindset, and that you're coming into this community with the best intention, right? And then, like, if you pass the vibe check, then you enter the community, and it just turns out that, you know, you pass the vibe check with everybody inside. And you know, all of our members have the understanding that it's all about giving, and you want to give as much as possible, because when you give as much as possible, that's when you put yourself in a position to receive, right? So always go into any conversation, any room, with the intention to provide value first, and then that's when you get value back.
And truly just connect with each of the members. I mean, and it's not even about business, it's about just personally.
Absolutely.
And kind of help each other to have balance.
Correct.
You know, because we're going to an event that, like you said, you've never been to one. And I don't go to many, although I've been to a few of them now. But I mean, every time it's gotten better, in my opinion. Every time, and you create that environment. Plus, having it at the Better Business Bureau is kind of a good thing, because people won't go if they know they're being vetted out.
Yeah. What's interesting about what you said is that it's gotten better, but it's only because I threw myself in the fire and I gave myself no other option other than to learn. And it just turns out that my mentors, my teachers, are just so happen to be my members. So it's funny. It's like I found all these individuals, and every single person, including yourself, including Bob, you guys all teach me something new, which in turn allows me to make the community better so it can serve you better.
And vice versa. I mean, we learn a lot from you as well, so which is wonderful. So I just want to thank you two for coming in and joining us today at Grow Together Initiative. And please share and like our website, growtogetherinc.com. And we'll share some of these videos. We'll have some reels out, and we'll kind of share all those. And if you can kind of encourage others to kind of share and kind of get more people in the fold as far as GTI. And from Catherine and I, thank you very much.